Hi, I'm Jeremy Crow, and in this video, I'd like to go over what cryonics is. Um, Now, a lot of people still use the word cryogenics, but technically that word is more generic, and it just means the science of making things really cold, whereas cryonics is the science of freezing an organism and then reanimating it later. So you've probably heard about this in science fiction, referred to as suspended animation. They do it all the time with human embryos, but it's never been done successfully with a full-grown adult human, intentionally at least. Now, there have been accidents where people have fallen through the ice and have been under for hours even and have been revived. So there is a lot of evidence that this type of science can work. Now, the process is basically what they do is they're not allowed to freeze somebody who's alive. So you have to be legally declared dead. Now, this is another issue. People think, well, if you're already dead, then how are they going to, revive you? Well, it happens all the time. Every single day, on average, over 1,000 times a year, people are revived from legal death. It's we've been pushing back the boundaries further and further of what we consider dead. A classic example is that in 50 years ago or so, if you tried to do CPR on somebody who had stopped breathing and their heart had stopped beating, they'd be like, "Get off that dead person! What the hell are you doing? You're abusing a corpse or something, right?" But nowadays we know that people can actually be resuscitated from legal death. So there is another big issue with this. When you freeze a body, the water between the cell walls freezes and crystallizes. Those crystals not only move the cells around, but they can also puncture and damage the cells with the sharp edges of the ice. So what they've done is they've figured out methods of preventing this type of freezing damage. As soon as a person is declared legally dead, ideally there'll be a team already there. They'll cool down the body as fast as they possibly can with ice packs, and they'll inject medications into the body. Once it's been cooled enough, they hook up a device. It's very similar to what they have in a mortuary, where they will remove all of the blood, and they have to try and do this quickly. And before that, they've been doing CPR. They've been doing that to maintain the circulation in the body, because as soon as the circulation stops, all sorts of processes start to happen that can really damage the body, including blood clotting, spasming of the blood vessels in the brain, which can really, really damage the brain. So they perfuse the body, they call it, and they remove all the blood and they replace it with cryoprotectants. These are fluids that, when you bring them down to a very low temperature, they solidify, or vitrify, they call it, turn into almost like a glass, which is like a solid liquid. And they don't form ice crystals. So the same kind of damage does not occur to the body when you do that. Now, this is the same type of cryoprotectants that they use when they preserve individual organs for later use in transplantation. And they've had a fair bit of success in that. Especially, they've done it with other animals, and they're starting to try and do it with humans now as well. But like I said, they haven't done it on a full human body yet and then been able to revive them. Now, there is still damage that occurs in freezing, but it's hopefully going to be repaired by future technologies, such as nanotechnology that can repair DNA damage, cell wall damage, etc. And also, if there's any kind of ailments that the person had, maybe that they died from, diseases and such, hopefully that those can be repaired as well. The idea is that eventually our modern medical science will advance to the point where they will be able to be revived and cured of whatever ailed them. And so people are sitting there at liquid nitrogen temperatures, and you can sit in that liquid nitrogen temperature frozen for hundreds of years with virtually no change, virtually no tissue damage beyond what the initial freezing caused. So if you use the cryoprotectants and you are able to gradually and carefully freeze the body down and carefully thaw it back up, we could eliminate death in a sense. Well, not completely. We can eliminate death from aging and disease, but there are still all kinds of other types of deaths that will happen. Cryogenics does not create immortality, it just creates extreme longevity, or at least a chance of extreme longevity. I personally support cryopreservation of humans, and personally would like to be cryopreserved and hopefully reanimated at some future date. Some people decide that they only want their heads cryopreserved, and because they're hoping that to get a new body, a new younger body grown for them, and they feel that the most important part to preserve is the head and especially the brain, and it costs a lot less too. So that's another factor. That personally, if I was to be cryopreserved, I would prefer my entire body, but sometimes you don't have an option. If your body is severely damaged or mangled, that could be a factor as well. So that's an introduction to cryonics, and that's just a basic overview of everything, and I hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks.